Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all an update to my Cardfight Vanguard Eugene deck profile for post-Dragontree invasion. We always get a couple Eugene cards here and there. I figured I'd update it with the new support we got from Dragontree invasion. We didn't get much for the Eugene deck, but I'm always mixing around numbers and changing some of the ratios for this deck, because it's definitely a deck that makes you focus on just what you want to use for your soul buildup, the retire power, and just the overall restand power that this deck can do now. Also utilizing its heavy artillery order to consistently get draw power and avoid the risk of decking out, because this is one of the decks I've done it the most, just being able to mill through the deck so quickly with the soul build out, the draw power, and just the rear guard calling setup that you can do. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck, our starter still being our double gun of Duststorm Bart when rode upon. If you went second, draw a card. Our grade 1 is Gunning of Duststorm Nigel. When rode upon by Cataclysmic Bullet of Duststorm Randor, you soul charge 1, which is our grade 2. And when this unit is rode upon by Heavy Artillery of Duststorm Eugene, you draw a card, choose up to one card from your drop zone, and put it into your soul. So it gives you draw power, and then just the initial soul setup to get ready for your main go-to grade 3, which is Heavy Artillery of Duststorm Eugene, along with the copy we are running in the ride deck. We are also running 3 additional copies of this card in the main deck as well. On the Vanguard Circle, once per turn, you can rest 2 rear guards, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, and this unit gets plus 10,000 till end of turn. And on Vanguard Circle, once per turn, if your opponent's rear guard was retired this turn, Soul Blast 5, look at the same number of cards at the top of your deck as the number of your opponent's open rear guard circles, choose any number of unit cards from among them, call them to rear, and put the rest into your soul. So you can get soul set up to be able to use this skill again the following turn, and then just be able to call rear guards without having to invest in your hand for any of those cards you may want to call out onto the field, being able just to call them from the top of your deck after you reveal them. For our new grade 3, I'm running 2 copies of Hunting Gatling of Duststorm Fierce. When this unit is placed on rearguard, if you have a Vanguard with Eugene in its card name, counter plus 1, discard a card from your hand, search your deck for up to 1 grade 3 normal order without the Regalis piece, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So I love how they gave us that, restriction search, just so we can have the search power to be able to, add to our hand our best harvest for our draw power. And with that search, you just have a counterblast and discard to add it to your hand. You'll get the additional draw power. It's just when it's placed on the rearguard circle as well, so it could be an easy search. And on rearguard once per turn, when your opponent's rearguard is retired by a card ability during your main phase, you can soul blast 1, stand this unit, and this unit gets boosted until end of turn, meaning you can also use your Fierce as a rest material for your go-to Vanguard Eugene, being able to retire, and then just use the soul blast after that rearguard was retired to be able to restand this card. And then if you need to mix around any of the other numbers, or let's say you call another grade 3 off of Eugene's reveal, you can at least use Fierce as a boost for that other unit you called out without having to mix up any of your columns. I also run 2 copies of Penetrate Dragon Trabosh. If you wanted to try 4 copies of Fierce, you can always try taking out Trabosh. It just provides the additional critical power for your unit when your Vanguard attacks, giving the Vanguard a critical +1. It's pressure, but we also have the restand power of the deck now with our Oswald. So if you wanted to take it out, you could just get more consistency in Fierce being a booster and searcher for our best harvest order. Moving on now to the grade 2s, I run 4 copies of Howitzer of Duststorm Dustin. When placed on rear, if your Vanguard is Heavy Artillery of Duststorm Eugene, put a card from your hand to your soul, draw a card, choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or greater rear guards, and retire it. So Eugene can just help by also building up your soul, but also being able just to retire a unit on the field, and you make up for it by drawing another card. It's not a plus or anything like that, and then you also just have the soul to use if you need to give your Eugene an additional plus 2,000 power when it attacks on rear guard for each of your opponent's open rear guards. So if your opponent has no rear guards, you could potentially be giving your Dustin the additional plus 10 power to swing at your opponent. If you Persona Road, it's an added power that keeps stacking up, along with the boost that you may also provide to your Dustin if you didn't rest the unit for Eugene also. Also 3 copies of Strong Fortress Dragon Gilbray Brachio for the rest power. If your Vanguard is Eugene, Soul Blast 1, rest this unit, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and retire it. And at the beginning of your battle phase, if your opponent has 1 or less rear guards, stand this unit, and it gets plus 5,000 to end turn. So even if you don't use the first skill of Gilbray Brachio, you can always just rest it with Eugene and then have it restand as an added power, just being able to utilize its own skill and not have to waste any of your rear guards not being able to attack because you rested them with Eugene. And then lastly, for the grade 2s, 1 copy of Twin Bullet of Duststorm Travis. Once per turn on rearguard, if your opponent's rearguard was retired this turn, you can Counterblast 1, Soul Charge 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, and retire it, and gets plus 10,000 to end of turn. So just something that can stay on the field and give you an additional plus 10 to this unit, while also being able to retire additional cards if you need to clear the board more and more to make use of some of your other units that you run in the deck. One of them being our main go-to grade 1, which is Assault Bullet of Duststorm Oswald. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted to Vanguard with Eugene and its card name. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater and they have no rear guards, Counterblast 1, discard a card from your hand, choose one of your Vanguards, stand it, and increase or decrease its critical and drive to 1 until end of turn. So any of the additional criticals that your Eugene may have gotten will disappear thanks to Oswald, but it is a restander being able to attack again with your Vanguard being very, very scary. I run 4 because this is a card that's normally taken out, whether it be by my opponent's clean sweep or any of their other units that can retire rear guards or imprison them with prison on the field, so at least I always have another copy of Oswald to call back out again. Our other grade 1s being 4 copies of Beautiful Bullet of Duststorm Jody. Once per turn on rearguard, if you have a Vanguard with Eugene in its card name, Soul Blast 1, choose a grade 2 or less unit. A normal unit other than a Sentinel from your drop zone, put it on the bottom of your deck. So the deck out power that I mentioned before is definitely real in this deck. So with it, you can just use your Soul and Jody to at least prevent yourself from decking out by being able to have multiple Jodys on the rearguard, providing a boost, and also being able to provide a once per turn Soul Blast to return a card back onto the bottom of the deck. At the most, I've always had 2 Jody on the field, being able to Soul Blast 2, 1 for each, and then put 2 cards back on the bottom of the deck using the 2 Jodys I have on the field, and that usually saved me because then I could just play off of ear and go for the final move without having to risk not having a drive check thanks to those cards. With the last of the grade 1s being 4 Twin Buckler Dragon. I'm not running Elementary Sanctitude just because the more orders I run, aside from Best Harvest, the less consistent my Eugene gets with revealing the top cards of my deck, since I'll get orders and then they just have to go into the Soul, since I can't call those cards out onto the field. And our order, running 3 copies of Best Harvest. Choose one of your Vanguards until end of turn. It gets Auto Vanguard Circle. When your opponent's rearguard is retired during your main phase, you draw a card. So if you clear out your opponent's entire rearguard circle, they have a full 5 rearguards and you're able to retire all of them. It's a draw for each one. So you'll be drawing 5 cards with Best Harvest, making up for any of the investment you may have used on the field to retire your opponent's cards by just keep on drawing into your own to use also. And then for the trigger lineup, I'm running 7 criticals, so 4 copies of Blaze Maiden Zone and 3 copies of Conduct Spark Dragon. If you have the ability criticals, you can always put them in. Same for the draw spot, just running the 4 Rushing Dragon Steel. But once again, if you have the one with the additional 5k shield, they always come in handy just for the additional guards they can provide. And same with some of the ability heals. I thought of running the new one from Dragontree Invasion. If you have them, you can put them in here. And our over trigger being Dragon Deity, King of Resurgence, Dragveda. Nothing sweeter than using Oswald for the restand, and then off of that attack, revealing a Dragveda, and having your Vanguard restand for a 3rd time for more added attack pressure. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. It's definitely an awesome deck. Eugene, I've been using it since set 1, Genesis of the 5 Greats, and I just love the support we keep getting more and more with this deck. I didn't have the one promo, Favil, I believe his name is, the one that gives you an additional soul buildup or top of deck buildup. If you wanted to use that card, you can always mix around the numbers with Trabosh or Jody for that card. I know it's a little more difficult for some people to get, being a shop promo. But as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.